compelling it to the hateful embrace of slavery. The South, he said, was guilty of a depraved longing for a new slave state, the hideous offspring of such a crime. Force had been used, he declared, in compelling Kansas to this pollution. The desk in front of Senator Sumner was empty. It belonged to Senator Andrew Butler of South Carolina, and when Sumner first became a senator, white-haired Butler had been pleasant and cordial, so much so that Sumner wrote to a friend that he had learned, from the old gentleman's kindness, to shun harsh and personal criticism of those from whom I differ. But that had been years ago, when men from Massachusetts and South Carolina could still exchange courtesies in the Senate chamber, and in any case Sumner was always ready to denounce even a close friend, and in the most unmeasured terms, if he suspected that the friend had fallen into error. Butler was a spokesman for slavery. He had had his part in the crime against nature, and the fascinating exercise of discussing political opposition in terms of sexual depravity could be carried on by this bookish man, still unmarried at 45, with Butler as the target. Sumner addressed himself to the absent Butler. The South Carolina senator considered himself a chivalrous knight, but Sumner had seen the truth. He has chosen a mistress to whom he has made his vows, and who, though ugly to others, is always lovely to him. Though polluted in the sight of the world, is chaste in his sight. I mean the harlot, slavery. For her his tongue is always profuse with words. Let her be impeached in character, or any proposition made to shut her out from the extension of her wantonness, and no extravagance of manner or hardihood of assertion is then too great for this senator. There was quite a bit more of this, ranging all the way from Senator Butler to the ancient Egyptians, who worshipped divinities in brutish forms, with due mention of the obscene idols to which the Aztecs had made human sacrifices, the connection of these latters with the harlot slavery not being of the clearest. At one stage Sumner interrupted himself to cry, "Mr. President, I mean to keep absolutely within the limits of parliamentary propriety," and then he went on, his speech still unfinished at the session's end. The senator managed to reach his conclusion the following day, reminding the presiding officer, perhaps unnecessarily, that an immense space had been traversed, and in closing he came back from brutish idols and obscene Aztecs to Senator Butler, from whom he had learned not to let political arguments get personal. There was not, he said, any possible deviation from the truth of which Butler was innocent, although, fortunately, these deviations were made in the heat of such passion as to save him from the suspicion of intentional aberration. Still, there it was. The senator touches nothing which he does not disfigure with error, sometimes of principle, sometimes of fact. A philippic, as he had promised. No single vote had been changed by it. The Senate would decide, at last, precisely as it would have done if he had kept quiet. But he had not been trying to persuade. No one was these days. A political leader addressed his own following, not the opposition. Sumner had been trying to inflame, to arouse, to confirm the hatreds and angers that already existed. In the North, there were men who from his words would draw a new enmity toward the South. In the South, there were men who would see in this speaker and what he had said a final embodiment of the compelling reasons why it was good to think seriously about secession. At the very end, Sumner had a gloomy moment of insight. The fight over Kansas, he said, spreading from the Western Plain to the Senate chamber, would spread still farther, would go to a nationwide stage where every citizen will be not only spectator, but actor. There is a rowdy strain in American life, living close to the surface, but running very deep. Like an ape behind a mask, it can display itself suddenly, with terrifying effect. It is slack-jawed, with leering eyes and loose, wet lips, with heavy feet and ponderous, cunning hands. Now and then, when something tickles it, it guffaws, and when it is made angry, it snarls, and it can be aroused much more easily than it can be quieted. Mike Fink and Yankee Doodle helped to father it, and Judge Lynch is one of its creations, and when it comes lumbering forth, it can make